Good morning, all of you. So let's begin our session. Let me briefly tell you diagrammatically what we have been doing. We have AWS cloud. Inside that, what we have done. So in Mumbai region, in one of the availability zone, we have created EC2 machine. So in this EC2 machine, we have installed Docker. Okay, and to this Docker, we are to this EC2 machine. It is Ubuntu machine, and we have installed Docker in this. We were able to connect to this using its public IP address and private key. And for that, we are using SSH client. In our case, we are using what? MobaXterm. How to install MobaXterm? I have given the link yesterday in the chat box, or else in our documentation you will be getting. So daily class notes I will be uploading by end of every day. Okay. So this is SSH client. So we are able to successfully connect to this machine. So this is my AWS management console. Docker host is running here. What is Docker host? The machine in which we install Docker is called as what? Docker host. We connect to this Docker host through its public IP address and the private key that we have created during the launch of this instance. So now let's open MobaXterm. Click on session, click on SSH. Remote host means the public IP address of this particular machine. Paste it here, specify username. Username is Ubuntu, where we will get the username. Click on connect. See, in EC2 instance connect, we will be having instance ID, public IP, and username. This is the username that we have to specify here. Then in advanced SSH settings, by pasting these two things, we won't be able to connect to them. We should provide the private key, which is nothing but something like a password. Okay, so click on this use private key, click on this browse option, and search for the private key where we have stored that. So in my case, it is still there in the download section. So it is .pem file. If you are using other SSH clients like PuTTY, you have to convert this PEM file to PPK file. But if you use the MobaXterm, there is no such a deck. So choose this and click on OK. If everything is fine, we should be able to connect to this machine. Yes, we are able to connect to this. So login as a sudo user. Then Docker. See, Docker CL is also already there because we have installed it, right? Now, what we have to do is Docker image ls to see the list of images. Okay, where are the images located? Images will be located in container registries. Where will be images located? Images, I mean Docker images. Here, by default, hub.docker.com is the public Docker registry. That means you can download the images from here. Anybody can download. But in real time, every organization will be having its own container registries. For example, they will be having their own private container registry in Azure. The service is Azure Container Registry. In AWS, it is Elastic Container Registry. We will see that also, how to create them, how to store images there, how to pull the images from there. All those things we will learn. Okay, so if you are not mentioning any container registry server, but by default it will be pointing to hub.docker.com. Okay, now let's explore few more things. So before exploring, so let me briefly tell you this. In order to download the images from the registry, Docker pull and the image name. Okay, for example, For example, I want to, so before explaining these commands, we will do them practically. For example, I want to pull the Tomcat image. Okay. So first you should know what is the official image name of the Tomcat. There are two options for that. One is Docker search command is there. I want to search Docker image for Tomcat. If you hit enter, see it is showing all those things. So Tomcat, these are the various Docker images. Some are customized Docker images, some are built by the Docker community, some are built by the private people, and they make it public so that it will be useful for everything. So if you see, Tomcat is there. Apache Tomcat is an open source implementation. Is an Apache Java is certified. So mostly this will be used, or also this can also be used. Okay, this is one way. These are all Tomcat only. So for example, if you take this Tomcat, Bitbucket pipeline Elasticsearch related Tomcat, this is okay. So generally our concern thing will be in the first or second thing. Now there is also another way. Then how to see the description of that particular image, particular Docker image. After you will see in description for sure with the command, but through a docker.com, you go here. If you search for Tomcat. See, this is Tomcat Docker official image, right? So this is an all Apache Java EE certified stack where Apache Tomcat is top dog. Okay, either you can use this, you can use this. Okay, so how to see the description of this? Wait a minute, friends. So this is the description of the entire Tomcat image. See what's the description? So different versions of the Tomcat images. We will understand them. So what is Tomcat? All those things. So how to use this image? So run. What is this IT RM? All those things we will learn. So you can test it by visiting this in a browser if you need access outside the host. So on which port the Tomcat will be running? The port number 8080. What this double we will learn that. So all these things are required details information that are required for a DevOps engineer or a developer. So all those things will be written in the Tomcat official image description. Okay, so how to download this into our Docker host? Docker pull Tomcat. See, we are not mentioning from where we have to download the Tomcat image from, right? So if you are not mentioning, by default, it will be pointing to hub.docker.com. Docker pull Tomcat. What will happen? Our Docker host will connect to the hub.docker.com and it will search for this image. If this image exists in the repo, then exists in the registry, then it will be downloaded into our host machine. See, now how to list out the things? Docker image ls or Docker images. Okay, so these two things are same. It got downloaded. Now let's try to Docker pull. What I have done here, deliberately have put tmcat. Okay, what it is saying, error response from daemon. Okay, a daemon means it's a Docker daemon. Full access denied for tmcat repository does not exist or may require Docker login. Denied, requested access to the resources denied. Why it is denied? Because the image with this name is does not exist in the hub.docker.com. That is what it is saying. Okay, so the Docker will validate and it is searching this image in the hub.docker.com. It is not existing there, so it is throwing this kind of error. Now we have downloaded the Docker image. Okay, so this is the image we have downloaded. It doesn't mean that a container is created. No, how to check the containers? use docker ps command. Okay, there is no container. You can also use docker container ls also. Docker, there are no containers running. So this image is nothing but a package of application source code along with its dependencies is called as the Docker image, and these images will be stored in container registries. In our case, it is hub.docker.com. Then what is container? Container is a running instance of this Docker image is called as what? Container. Okay, so how to create a container out of this Docker image? We have seen that yesterday also. We will learn how to check whether what's the default. If you are not mentioning any server, by default it will be connected to the app.docker.com. We will see how to connect to our various Docker servers also. We will see that going forward. Okay. Now, how to create a container from this Tomcat image? That's what our purpose. Because what will you do with the image? We have to run this, right? So now I want to go to our documentation for systematic study. So there are many options. Okay. So one thing is, okay, I'm not going with this. So let's learn from here itself. There is another command, docker run command. What this docker run command will do? Docker run command will run a container from this Docker image. This is the Docker image. What we are doing? We are telling we want to create Docker container from this Docker image, and I want to name the container as My Tomcat. How to name the container? Using -name option. What does it indicate? I want to create a container called My Tomcat. You can name it whatever you way. Okay, you can name it as C1, C2, or you can dev Tomcat, like that also you can name it. So I want to run a container from this image. Definitely we will run the container from the image, right? So in this command we have to mention the image name at the end of this command, and all other additional options will be coming before this image. I want to name that container as My Tomcat. Okay, and we should know that Tomcat will be running on 8080 port. If you don't know how to check that, go to up.docker.com, search for Tom image, and in description they will tell you what's the container image. What is the port for this My Tomcat for Tomcat server. Then what I want to do? I want to perform port mapping. Okay, listen carefully. What is port mapping? What is port mapping? I will tell you now. So where are we now? Now what we are doing? This is the EC2 machine. This is the Docker host. Now we are creating a container in this. This is what? Container. This is what? My Tomcat container. The container name is what? My Tomcat. Okay, let's do this. This is the container name, My Tomcat, right? Now, this My Tomcat will be running on port 8080. Okay. Now, how to access this My Tomcat container from the outside? Okay, outside in the sense, let's say this is my local machine, right? This is my local machine, and I have Chrome browser installed in this. How to access this My Tomcat? Definitely, there is a way to access this. One is not one. The way is we have to use the public IP or public IP of this particular machine. That is the Docker host where this particular container is running. Then what we have to do? We have to perform port mapping. For example, you may be having another application like Nginx. You may be having another Tomcat like Tomcat 2. These many containers are running, but how to access each container application from the outside? Okay, for that, it may be running, for example, it may be running on 8080. This, let's say this is also Tomcat container. This will be running on 8080, right? So if I use the public IP address of this Docker host machine, then which Tomcat I should be access, I should able to access? Conflict will come, right? So what we have to do, we have to map the port of the container with the port of the Docker host. That means what I mean to say, okay, I will be having a public IP for this EC2 machine, and that IP address is common for all the containers in order to access them. What I have to do is, this is the Docker host, right? I will perform port mapping. That means what I will do, here is, whenever somebody is trying to hit this public IP address and along with the 9090 port, the traffic will be redirected to this My Tomcat container. And if another person, the same person is, now let's copy the public IP address. This is the public IP address of this machine. So this is first one. When they are trying to access with 9090 port, it will be coming to this container. And the same way, if how to make this container application accessible outside from here, for that what we have to do, 9090 port already we have used. We have to use another port here. Okay, so another port. Now let's say 8888 port. Okay, so this container will be made accessible over the 8888 port. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to perform port mapping. We are mapping the port of this container with the Docker host port so that we will be able to access this container application, right? Somebody is asking some question. Okay, admin is texting regarding the course details and all. Okay, this is our setup. This is what we are trying to do. For that, first what we have to do, we have to create a container called My Tomcat. In order to create a container, definitely we should have the image. Okay, then we have to perform the port mapping. This we have to do. How to achieve that? For that, okay, so
Laxman, hi Laxman. One question I have here.
yes, you can ask me.
Can you go to your slide?
Hmm.
Why you are mapping 8080, which is on Docker host, to 8888? It's directly accessible with 8080, right? It's not sitting on your corner.
Yes, that's fine. What I'm telling is, there are two Tomcats are running, right?
Yeah,
this
but,
Tomcat will also be running on 8080. This will also be running on 800. How to redirect the traffic to this one or this one?
My question is, already your 8080 container is running inside the Docker host that you have mapped to 9090. That is fine. What is the need for mapping the application which is running outside the container, which is on our direct Docker host, which we can access directly through our public IP, right?
Okay, good question. Yes, good question. And the networking for this Docker is different from that of the Docker host. They are in different. This is in the local host. Okay. So what we have to do, we have to perform the port mapping. In that case, what will happen is traffic will be coming to first a Docker host. We can't directly go to the container.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So first we have to go to here. So we have to redirect the traffic to the container by performing the port. What you want to say, you can directly access through 8080 also. No problem with that. We can map to 8080 also.
My question is also saying, and if we are trying to access the container outside, then the port we should the Docker host or the container.
Yeah, I'm not able to hear you properly. Your question is also same, right?
Yeah, Laxman, let me tell you my doubt clearly. Like inside the Docker host, you have a container where you are running My Tomcat, which is running on port 8080.
Yes.
Okay. In order to make it accessible to the public IP, you are just mapping it to the 9090 port of Docker host.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that is fine, and I understood that. But you are running one more Tomcat on your Docker host directly, which is running on your port 8080 of your Docker host, not inside the container.
No,
So,
no, no. This is the container port only.
okay, you are running that also in container.
This is the container port. By default, you can't change this. By design, they have created this container to be running on Edge Reddy. This is the container port.
No, container port. Okay, what I'm thinking is like this 8080. What if you run directly on Docker host? If you install Tomcat not as a container, if you install directly on top of your host, you can directly access it
Yes,
with 8080,
yes,
right?
yes. Yes, we can directly access that.
Okay, now it is clear. I thought you are means describing about Tomcat on the Docker host and Tomcat inside that.
No, no, no. This is also a container only.
Okay,
Okay.
then it is
Okay.
okay.
Okay, let's proceed with our discussion. So, how to perform this kind of port mapping? For that, what we have to do is, so I want to copy this command. And one thing is, I want to show another thing.
Docker port for port mapping. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear
Hello,
you.
can
Some
you hear me?
interruption is there. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I think some issues from our side.
My question is that we may have multiple containers C1, C2, having multiple ports or same port.
The container, if it is Tomcat, by default Tomcat port is 8080. That we can't change. Okay.
Okay, suppose it is one container is Tomcat, one container is Nginx, and then having variety of ports. Okay, and if you want to access outside,
definitely we should perform port mapping. For example, it is Nginx. It will be like 80 port, right? If I'm not wrong. So now let me search for this after docker.com. Search for Nginx. So this is official. Let's go to the description. Okay, it is the 80 port. So if it is Nginx 80, you can't directly access a public IP address with 80. We have to perform the port mapping either automatically or manually. We will see the both approaches. Okay. So in that case also what we have to do, we have to redirect the traffic from the Docker host port to the container port. Definitely we have to perform the port mapping. We will understand that. Now what we will do is, see, I want to run a container call. I want to run a container. I want to name that container as My Tomcat. And the official image I want to use is Tommy. And see, we have downloaded the Tomcat image, not the Tommy image. We can also use both, either of this. You can use this, you can use this. What this Docker run command will also do is, if the Docker image called Tommy is not downloaded already into our Docker host, it will connect to the hub.docker.com and it will pull the image. What I mean to say, this Docker run command will also pull the image if the image is not existing here. Okay. If the image is not existing, it will try to connect to the hub.docker.com. It will do the function of Docker pull command. And after pulling the image, it will run the container from this and it will name the container as My Tomcat. That is okay. Now we will see that. Now I know that the Tomcat will be running on 8080 port. How do I know that? We have seen in the documentation. Then I want to redirect the traffic to I want to map this port of the container to the port of the Docker host 7070. Okay, so in our case, we have used the 9090, right? We can put that as well. Let's do it according to our image. You can use any port here. Now, let's do this. See what it is saying, unable to find image Tommy locally. You will understand this tag later. We have Tomcat, we don't have the Tommy. So this run command will search the image locally. If it is unable to find it, it will go to hub.docker.com. It will pull the image, see downloaded, and the Tomcat server is running. These are the server logs, right? So what I said, we will be able to access this through the port 9090. Let's check that. Copy the public IP address. Use 9090 port. So I will ping this to you also. You people also should be able to access this. Can any one of you try and tell me whether you are able to access this or not? Anybody in the world can access this. Now our Tomcat. Anybody trying it? Yes, Satish is saying is able to access. Yes, thank you. So checker is also able to access. That's fine. That's enough. Now, what I want to do, let's create one more Tomcat and let's explore other option here. So I forgot to describe this properly. So how to perform the port mapping? Using -p. This stands for port mapping or publish. Officially it is called as publish. I want to publish this over this 9090 port. Okay. Now what I did, I have interrupted the process. I have terminated the process using Control-C command. Right. Then if I done that, where this, now let's check Docker PS. The container is stopped. How to see whether the container is stopped or not? Docker PS check for all. See, container was exited because we have applied exited. Now let's remove this. Now let's explore one more command. Docker start. This is stopped container and I want to start it. How to do it? This is the container name is this. You can use either the container ID or the container name. So now let's start this again. Container got started. Docker PS, the container is running. How to check the logs? Docker logs command is there. Logs will be for container, not for the images. So Docker logs for which container? Either you can use container ID, you can use container name. So in this case, let's use the container name. So it will be showing you the logs, right? That is the thing. Now let's create one more Tomcat and let's forward to 8888. How to do that? Now let's type the command docker run. I want to run a container and I want to name it what? I want to name it as My Tomcat 2. Okay, so this is how you mention the name of the container. If you don't name the container also, that's fine. A random name will be allocated for that. So hyphen name My Tomcat 2 from which image? Now let's use a Tommy image again. The image should come at the last. So first write the image and push it to the last. And now what we do, we don't want to specify any Docker host port. Container port for Tomcat, it's always 8080. I don't want to take the risk of creating the port, mapping a particular port. So now let's do automatic port mapping. Okay, now let's do this. See, automatic port mapping is there. If automatic port mapping is there, what is the port that the Docker has been allocated? Which port on this particular container? This container 2 is being forwarded to. How to check that? Definitely we should check that, right? Otherwise, how can I be sure about that port? For that, in order to check that what is happening, we are getting the logs. How to get the details of the container? Either I have to open the new terminal. Let's open that. and copy the public IP address of this instance and open another session. For that, use the Ubuntu as the username, advanced SSH settings, use private key, and here browse for the key, click on this. Okay, login as the root user, Docker PS S2 containers are running. These two containers are running from the same image. Okay, that means you can run multiple containers using the same image, right? So one container is My Tomcat, another container is My Tomcat 2. The port of the My Tomcat container I know in advance because we ourselves have forwarded the port. We have used the 9090 port of the Docker host, and it will be redirecting the traffic to the 8080 port of this particular container. But for My Tomcat 2, I did not explicitly mention the port of the Docker host. Instead, what I have done, I have used the -P, which stands for automatic port mapping. So what is that port? The port was by default it was allocated 49,153. 49153. Okay, 494915. 49153. 49153. Okay, got it right. So this is one Tomcat. This is also one Tomcat. This is running on 9090 port. This is running on 153. That is fine. Then what I want to do now is how to enter into the particular terminal of the container, right? So for that, for container, we will be able to go inside it because we can think container as a small virtual machine. How to enter into the terminal? Docker exec it. What are the options? I want to execute commands in interactive mode of the container. Which container? Let's choose the Tomcat 2 only. So whenever we want to mention the container, you can mention the name of the container or you can mention the container ID. So for simplicity, let's mention the I want to interact with the terminal of this My Tomcat 2. And what's the terminal? The shell is bash. Use this. See, now the prompt went to the Docker host to the container terminal, right? That's fine. Now you can use the Linux commands here, right? So where will be the Tomcat folder? Okay, so Tomcat directory. Now what I'll do? Modify the content of Tomcat homepage. What's the path list? What is the path of the Tomcat? For Nginx, I know because I will work on Nginx. Seems like this is not the directory. Anyway, that's not. Where is the Tomcat? Why we are not able to find the Tomcat? Anyway, I will find the path later. Share, yes, share. User share. HTML file will be there for Tomcat. So anyway, guys, so let's not worry about that. Anyway, so this is the concept I wanted to tell you. So how to interact with the container? So in order to interact with the container, we have a command called docker exec -it option is there. We will see that again. Now, how to exit from this container terminal? Control plus PQ. Just use control PQ. Control PQ at a time. Press them, then we will be coming out of the container. Now see the prompt has been coming to the this one to the Docker host. So Docker ps-a. So it will show all the container. So this container is running, this container is running, and the port of this container is this one. This is this one. Okay. Now let's try to do another thing. Now let's try to run another command. Docker ps-a docker stop command is there. Docker stop means we can stop the container. Docker stop it. See, it is stop. Docker ps-a. See, it is exited. So exited, so we don't have any work with that. So now let's docker remove this. Docker rm command is used to remove the container. Okay. Now the container is removed. What does it mean? Container will be removed, but not the image. Images will be still there. Okay. Now let's try to do one thing. Now let's try to remove this image. Okay, this image is there. We are not using that. We are using which image for these two containers? We are using the Tom image. Docker RMI to remove the image. What's the image name? Tommy. See what is coming here? Error response from daemon complex unable to remove repository reference Tommy because container with this ID is using its image. What is this container? Container with this ID is what? This one. The container is using this image, so we won't be able to remove this image. Remember that. When the container is utilizing some image, we won't be able to remove that image. Now, how to do that? First, we have to stop the container and remove the image. We have to stop the image and we have to remove that. What we have to do? Now, somebody is asking some question. Even when container is stopped also, Satish B is asking that. Now let's do that. Docker, he wants to stop this container as well. Let me stop that. Docker stop command. See, both the containers are stopped. Docker PSA. Now, Docker RMI Tommy. See, even when the container is in stop state also, we won't be able to do that because the container is stopped means what? We can start it again. So first we have to remove this container, then we will be able to remove the image. So how to remove the container? We know that. How to remove multiple containers? Docker RM. If the container is running, we can forcibly stop it and remove it. How to do that? With force. I want to remove the containers with force. That means if the container is running, please stop it forcibly. Then I want to remove all the containers. Docker PSAQ. This command you have to remember or else also no problem. We want to remove the containers either stop or running. If the containers are running, they will be stopped forcibly. and we want to remove all the containers. Okay, so this will give the list of all the IDs of the removed and the stopped container. So we are removing all those things. If you see this, all the containers will be removed. In our case, we have only one container. Now let's remove Docker image ls images also. What I want to do, I want to remove all the images. Docker system prune -a. In order to remove individual images, we are using RMI. In order to remove all the images, system prune -a. It will be asking for confirmation. See, all the two images were removed. And if we are removed, what are these? All these things, these are layers. We will understand these things in the layers concept, right? So this is now we don't have any images, we don't have any containers, whether stopped or running. Let's explore few more options. Now, what is the other option?
Sir, can you please show once the container deletion, all containers that?
Okay, that command is there in our document here. We can go it, or else also I will tell you now. Okay, Docker RM. RM stands for what? Remove. I want to remove which containers? You want to remove only stopped containers or running containers also? I want to run. I want to remove everything. Okay.
Everything.
If the container is running, I want to forcibly stop it first. Okay. Then this will give Docker ps aq. What it will do is it will give the list of all the container IDs, whether they are running or stopped, and we want to remove all those things. Okay, this is the thing. Something I'm missing. Something I missed.
I think there is no container to remove.
Docker at least one argument.
Already all containers has been deleted.
Already deleted. No. So
okay, that may be the reason. Okay, that may be the reason. Okay.
Nothing in that.
Okay, got it. Okay, this is the command. Then we have seen the Docker execute command, so that we will be going inside this one. We will see more in coming days how to use this and how to change the settings of the container. That is one thing. We have seen stop, we have seen RM map. So if you want to stop the individual container, stop and remove the container, RM, F, and the container name or the container ID. So what we are doing is whenever we are running this command, we are seeing the console logs, and if you want to see the container details, let me post this again. See, all the images were deleted, so it is trying to pull the image again. What will happen when the container came into running state? We will also see the logs of the application, and if the logs are coming, we won't be able to run the, and the term is also this. If the logs are coming here without interrupting this application, we won't be able to execute other commands, right? So these are the live logs. We won't be able to use another Docker commands. We won't be able to execute the commands. How to do that? I want to run this container in the background. Okay, I want to run this container in the background so that these logs will be emulated from the console, and they will be running in the background. How to do that? So I have stopped the container, Control C. I have used Docker ps -aq. So this is, now let's remove this Docker RM F. I want to remove all the containers, either they are running or they are stopped. So container got removed. Now we have one more option called -d. Stands for detached. I want to run the container in the detached mode. So if I use this, See, we are not seeing the logs. They are pushed to the background. But definitely there should be a mechanism to watch the logs, right? Docker logs, container name. What is the container name? This one. This is what? This is the image name. My Tomcat. Okay. So this is Docker ps -a2. The container is now running. So -d is the option which we use for running the container in the detached mode. That is the background mode, right? This is one thing. Now I have also seen -P. Now let's run the Jenkins server. Okay, so before that, I don't want to stress my system. I want to remove all the containers because I have chosen T2.micro. If I'm running multiple containers without removing earlier things, what will happen? The system resources may not be sufficient for this low configuration. So I want to remove the containers. So how to remove? Because I have only single container running. RM. Okay, now let's try to remove this. What will happen? See, you cannot remove a running container. First, we have to stop it. How to stop it? Docker stop the container name. Stop it and remove it. Or else also you can stop and remove at a time with -f command. It will be stopped and removed. Now let's run the Jenkins server. Very simple. So earlier, if you want to run the Jenkins, how many commands you have to execute? First, you have to install the OpenJDK. Later, you have to install multiple. You have to run multiple commands. So the Jenkins will be running. Now let's use this. So how do I know that the Jenkins official name? For that, search for hub.docker.com or Docker search Jenkins. See, this is the first one. It is saying it's a deprecated. Use instead Jenkins/Jenkins. Okay. Now, this tags we will understand. If you are not mentioning any tags, it will be pulling the latest image from the repository. Now, let's copy this command. Sorry. Docker run. I want to run a container. I want to name that container as my Jenkins. Okay. How to name a container? Using -name option. I want to perform port mapping manually. If you don't want to choose the Docker host port yourself, you can use -P. Okay. Then I want to perform manual port mapping here. And I want to run this in the detached mode. What is the image name? Jenkins/Jenkins. You can use multiple spaces in between also. Okay, no problem. But standard way is use one space. Now what will happen? This image will be pulled first. This run command will search for this image in the local. If it is not existing in our Docker host machine, then it will go to the hub.docker.com. It will pull the image from there and it will create a container and name the container as my Jenkins and will be port mapping will be performed. Now logs won't be visible because we are running this in the detached mode. Okay, so later point of time, because it is in front of our eyes, we are able to see that it will be running on 9090 port. How to check later once this command is gone? For that, docker ps command is there. Okay, use always the docker ps because it will show all the containers, right? If they are stopped. If you go to port section, okay, here it is saying 9090 port. Okay, this is, then copy this public IP address. Our Jenkins server will be running. Now here the execute command will be useful. See, starting Jenkins. In order to log into the Jenkins, so we have to provide the password. Where the password will be there? Password will be there in this. Either it will be there in the host machine or the container. We are running in the container, right? So we have to go inside the container and go to this path. I've discussed this many a time. Docker exec it. Execute the command in interactive mode. What's the container name? My Jenkins. In the terminal, we have to specify here. So we are into the Jenkins container. Go to this path where Jenkins home secrets cd where cd Jenkins home cd secrets cd secrets. Okay, now to see this will be the password. I think the content in this file will be the password. Cat it. We cat this. The password is this. Copy this password and paste it here. This is administrative password. If we have the knowledge of the Jenkins, then it will be asking for the installation of the plugins and creation of the user. This is what it is, right? So we have done that. Now, how to exit from this terminal? Control PQ.
Could you explain me that? Could you explain again that detached mode?
Detached mode is nothing but -D option we are talking about, right?
What is the purpose? Where do we
This
use?
one.
What, yeah, what scenario we use? Why do we need this?
Why do we use means? Okay, let me. If you don't use this, what is happening? Console logs are displaying here. How will you execute other commands? In order to execute other commands, you have to open another terminal and we have to execute. But what I want to do, I want to push the content, I want to push the logs to the background.
Okay.
Okay, that is. So let me show you the difference. Now let me stop this. Now let's not use this -D. These logs are coming in the console, right? So how can I use?
Yeah. While running this, we cannot run other things. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to run this, we have to open another terminal. We have to do it, but I don't.
But when you use use -D, it doesn't show this one, so we can use another other.
Yes, that's it. Detached mode. Okay, Docker rm my case. That is one more command. Now let's do one thing. Let's create a Ubuntu container.
Is there any other mode is available apart from the detached mode?
No, only this detached mode is there. Why? Other mode means what? Yes. No, detached mode is there, and if you don't have this, if you don't put this, it will be showing only two things: whether to get the logs, whether to push the logs to the background. Two things, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, what if we do not use -D and then we can press Control C and then proceed further? Can we do that way also? Alternative way?
Container is exiting now. Container is exited. Now let's do this. Now let's do this. Now let's go to this Docker ps-a. What is happening? Jenkins is in running state. Now let's see Control C. Okay. Now let's see Control C. Now let's execute the command here. What happened? Container exited. Okay. Clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Then now let's remove that. Then let's take another container and execute some commands. To create Ubuntu container, I want to create a container. I want to name it as My Ubuntu. And the image name is Ubuntu, and we have to interact with it. If there is no interaction with it, then what's the point of using this? Nothing, right? So we have to interact with it. If we are not interacting, immediately it will be terminated because there is no application running inside the particular container. So what we have to do, I want to run a container from the Ubuntu image. Now let's do this. I want to name this as this one. Let's not name the container this time. What will happen? If we want to go inside the running container, we will be using exec IT. At a time in the beginning itself, you want to interact with this, you have to use the -t.
Sir, here you are simply creating one container from image Ubuntu.
Yeah.
So why you are putting interactive mode IT?
Because
we are not interacting.
Now I am creating Ubuntu container. If I don't interact with it, there is no application running inside in this, right? So what will happen? It will be searching for some command. If there is nothing is executing, then it will be terminated. I will show you the difference now. So we are landed into the container terminal. Now let's do one thing. Exit from it. So docker ps -a. Now it is exited. Now let's remove this. Okay, we did not give any name to this. So by default, some name has been given. The author of the image name will be coming. This is now. Let's do one thing. Now we don't have. Now let's don't interact with it. Now let's not do it. Now let's execute it. So container will be exited because there is no default process that will be running inside the container. It will be running. For example, if you want to create when we are creating the Docker images, Docker files and Docker images, we will understand this clearly. Okay, that if there is no process is running, it will be exited. So how to interact with it? Docker -a docker rm container ID. Now let's interact with it. So we are landed into that, and we will be going into that. We can do whatever the things we want to do because Ubuntu is a lightweight. You may not be getting all the commands that are there in the default Ubuntu, okay, and the full-fledged Ubuntu. But if you want to install these things, for example, curl is not there here. But if you go to our Ubuntu machine, curl will be there by default. Okay, so how to install this? apt update the package repository. Apt install curl. See, curl is installed, right? Curl. So things will be coming. This is right. So what we have seen various options like performing manual port mapping, automatic port mapping, then detached mode, how to name a container, how to interact with the container. We will see more options going forward. So if you want to inspect the container, we have inspected. So in order to interact with the terminal of that, we will be having attach command. We will see all these things. After that, after doing this, we will see some scenarios and we will set up some environments. After that, we will see the volumes concept. Then we will see the networking concept. Then we will see the how to create our Docker images through Docker commit command and Docker file. We will see many more things. And we will see how to Dockerize real-time applications like Spring Boot, Java application, Node.js, Python application, and other applications. We will see all those things. Okay, so I will give some repos where you will be getting very simple Docker and Kubernetes. Okay, I want to make it very simple. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask me, guys. Otherwise, we will wind up the session.
So, sir, like Ubuntu, you said, as Ubuntu, whenever we will create a container for Ubuntu, and as Ubuntu is the operating system and no application hosted over that empty operating system. So for that purpose, we have to use IT, I mean interactive mode. Okay.
Yes.
So like this way, any other utility that may be operating for anything which has no application hosted. So in that case as well, also we have to use IT mode because else if you don't use, then it will give error. So that is the summary,
yes. Yes. Okay. we will see that going forward, it is premature. When we are creating the Docker files, what we will do is we will use this Ubuntu container. Okay, for sure, I will show you what I am telling is. It's premature to conclude that decision, but
Sir,
what we will do is,
I mean,
yeah. Whenever the process is I'm not able to hear you. Lot of interruption coming your side.
Sir, when we are creating Docker file later in the course, can we also can you also please Dockerize the microservice like service registry or API gateway also? Will that be possible?
Yes, whatever you do in the Ubuntu, we can do with the containers. Okay, I will show you. For example, here in our case, I will take Ubuntu. I will take Ubuntu. I will install Python. By default, we are using this. What I will do is, I have designed one thing. Where, see what I have done here. This is the default way how people will be doing. They will be taking the node, okay, for Node.js application. But what I will do, I have taken a Ubuntu container and I'm installing everything in that. And I'm copying the source code from the host to this container, and we are running this command. This server will be running. In that case, this is also Ubuntu container only, because we are executing some application here, some command here, and it is an application. It will be running, right? So in that case, we don't need to interact with it. Okay. Okay. If you want to, you can interact. Okay. Without doing that also, what will happen? It will be directly running the application.
So I just wanted to know, will you also show us the Dockerization of API gateway and service registry sort of?
Yes, if you give me the source, yes, I will show. Very simple. As simple as that. What we have to do, we are able to do it in the Linux, right? Ubuntu. Those commands we will be the packages and all those things we will be installing in the Ubuntu container. And from that what we will do, the required things will be, we will be copying the source code into this, and we will be doing that. Okay, in repository we have that, and this is not the in there. It's not 65 pages. We have many other things in the repositories also. Okay. So anyway, guys, we are running out of time, so I have another application. Let's wind up this session. If you have any questions, we will take up tomorrow. This is first. Let me save the recording first.